Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at Mothership, the second edition, Mothership 2.0, whatever you want to call it, but it's this monster box of a cool modular space game. And I've actually done a review video on the original game as well as the Kickstarter prototype for the second edition. So instead of redoing all of that, you can go back and look at those if you want. I may redo one if I get a full box set here in the future. But right now I want to look at the upgrade kit that I got that basically turns my Mothership 1.0 into 2.0. And the first thing worth noting is this box. This was the original box here. And if we line them up here, you can see there's considerable difference. You got an extra inch or two here and an extra inch or so that you lose here, so they basically made it more rectangular instead of square. But the big difference here is in the thickness. You're almost twice as high, and that's to accommodate for the new ship tray. If you've seen the old video or have the old game, there's two different box covers for this too. This is the Kickstarter one, but the original game had this cool tray where all of your ships were laid out, and they're easy to get to, already all assembled. Really neat design, and he took it one step farther with this new one. Now, since this is the upgrade instead of buying an entire copy of the game, Peter was cool enough to offer people who had the original game an empty box. So you can buy this box, now you can store everything from the base game, everything from the upgrade, and everything from the expansions all in one box. And this little clear tray here, this one's great dual use. All of your tokens and things, the little cubes that you use for resources, will go in these trays, and you can set this right on the table and grab from it during the game. Kind of a neat thing. It's a little thin, but thick enough I think it's going to hold up. Same kind of material they use for normal vacuum forming. Onto the actual insert itself. It's not quite as modular as the first one. I missed the card tray that came out. There was a removable tray you could use to draw from your decks and everything. Don't have that anymore, but to compensate for it, we have this cool new miniature tray. And you can see these little hexes here. Unfortunately, this material seems a little thin, and I got some wrinkling and crinkles in the corners here, as well as I think there's a tear up in one of those compartments, but it's not too bad. It's more than enough for what it does. There's room in here for all of the ships from the original game, plus the 3 new units for each color. The only downside is if you have the 7 and 8 player expansion, this only holds the 6 factions from the base game. So there's plenty of room to kind of tuck the others in there. There just isn't little slots to stand them up in. And then up here we've got slots for your card decks. There's plenty of room in here for your cards, even sleeved. You can lay them flat. I prefer to stand them on my edge. Same here with the mini cards. And one of the expansions has larger tarot style cards which will fit in here. Unfortunately, there isn't actually a compartment for that, but they left this open so you can put other stuff in there as well. But really like the way it's set up, and it seems pretty functional. The only thing I'm not huge on is how tightly these ships actually fit in. Some, especially in the corners here, just kind of snap in pretty easy. But others, yeah, when you further you get out, get more and more difficult to snap into place. And you can see I'm pushing on these from the base because I don't dare do it on the ship because some of them are so strong. I'm afraid I'm going to break the ships. And it isn't too bad putting them in until you get to the problem, once you have multiple rows in there, the ships in the front start getting in the way of the ones behind them. And they're such a tight fit, I'm afraid once you get this all filled, it does look really cool when they're all in there, and I'll show you a picture here. But when you start to try to pull out one in the middle, say I want to use this middle row's color, trying to get in there to pull on these, you kind of have to pull on the ship itself, and I'm just afraid of how tight some of those are that they may damage my ships. I think what I'm going to do, instead of actually using the tray, as cool as it is that I'm going to keep my ships in a bag. Everything you need to play a fleet is in here. All of the different tokens and everything, all the bases, all the ships. I'm just going to throw these bags in there, and there's plenty of room for every faction to fit in there like that. And it's a shame not to use the insert, but that's just me. Maybe yours will be a looser fit. Maybe they'll wear in over time. I'll have to see how that works out. So anyway, that's a look at the box. Now let's see what goes in it. Massive box. I love it. So if you bought the upgrade pack, you're going to get a box like this. So let's see what you get in here. And I've already gone through and sorted all this stuff out and moved it all. It comes in little baggies and packages and things. But first thing we have here is the new rule book. And I like it. It's large, bright colors. They show all the contents of the base set here. Some of the new things that have changed. They have added a few things. Most notably the new control panels, which we'll get to. The addition of the new Guardian cannons, which are new to 2nd edition here. As well as resources now being cubes, where they used to be cards. And there's 2 types of resources now instead of just 1. There's a new technology tree with an entire new branch for the Guardian cannons, as well as some of the other ones have changed. So make sure you read through those if you're a fan of the 1st edition. There have been some changes. Most notably, my favorite were the nuclear missiles, which can no longer target colony stations. I don't think they could target planets before, but they can't target Guardian cannons either. They're actually listed as being able to target any ship, and planets, colony stations, and Guardians aren't considered ships. So that's new, and there's a few other changes in there as well. There's a new type of planet, the gas planets, which is where the new resource comes from. As well as the artifacts getting a small overhaul. The fact that 1, 2, and 3 are now actual items as opposed to just blank generic things. They were upgraded into the Vortex, I think it was one of the expansions, and this just makes it official in the core game as well. Then in the back here, we've got some map layout ideas, and there's the whole new thing for influence, which is another new resource in the game. And a lot of these ones back here are optional stuff, which is really cool because they're modular. You can choose if you want to use them or not. Development cards are another new one, which allow you to develop up a planet and get other things from it than just resources. And moons are also a new thing, which are tiny little, I don't know if you can see it on there, tiny little planets that come on a little arm that orbit your planets. And they can also be used standalone. And then we also have the die that goes with them. Because moons are so small, instead of generating a specific bonus for you, they get a die roll, which is kind of cool. And the new victory point counters, which go on these tracks instead of the cards from the original game. We'll get to that when we're going through the components here. And then there's rules for the solo mode in the back here, as well as a card list in case for some reason you want to look things up or separate them back out after you have the expansions. And then a bunch more map layouts in the back. Like the new book. Onto the box here. You get 6 player boards of the new design. These are the thicker cardboard instead of the paper like they were in the other one. Well, they were more like a poster board type thing, but much nicer and thicker. And they have recessed little holes for the cubes to sit on. Instead of those little wooden discs that you used to have in the original version, now you have cubes that go in these and they kind of lock into place, so if these get bumped during your game, they don't slide all over. And then you have a hit point bar for your mothership and your colony station. They have little charts on here that tell you what can damage what, including the new Guardian cannons, and then a little thing that talks about cost of each item across there. And they have the mothership artwork on the back. Much nicer than the original player boards though. That's a huge upgrade there. On a similar note are the new tech trees. They're also thick board now instead of the poster board stuff. Much nicer, much more durable. I like the artwork on there. And they have these cubes that you use to track down. When you get to here, you can only branch one way or the other, and you go work your way up. And these dark shaded ones do not stack with each other as you're going through the tree. So if you have this one and this one, you don't get both bonuses. You only get the better of the two. But those are nice. An improvement over the originals as well. So all of the cards in the original game had the same backs on them, which made separating things out or trying to figure out which deck was which kind of difficult. I think they had different color ones for the artifacts or something, but new ones all have new iconography on the back. They're all different and unique, so you can tell which decks are which. A lot of them have also gotten new artwork on the fronts, at least a UI overhaul. And the action cards here have your little image up here, and I think the thing in the center has stayed pretty similar to what they were before, but the background images are different. And then down here you have their resource cost if you want to sell them, your one-time bonus you get for playing them, and then a lot of them are some fluff text down here on the bottom. But the entire action deck here has been redone, all new cards, so you're going to be replacing your original deck with those. As with the other cards, the artifacts has also got an overhaul. New cards, new graphics. I think most of them are the same. I haven't actually looked through to see, but they're at least very similar, just new artwork, and the bonuses are relatively the same. The new ones, 1, 2, and 3 here, are completely new items with new bonuses. And again, these are going to replace your artifact cards from your original game when you do the upgrade. Next we have these quick tip cards. These are kind of cool. You get one for each player. There's a quick tip 1 and a quick tip 2. But you're going to get one of these for each player. And on the front they talk about different rules. On the back they have turn order and things that you can do. I think the second one talks about special rules, and very helpful for new players. You can hand these out and they can look things up. Basically an FAQ, so you don't have to keep referring to the rule book. And then our last set of cards are mini cards here, and these ones are for developing your planet, one of the new rules in the second edition, and these you're going to be using to upgrade. They don't shuffle very well, are they? Various aspects of your planet to get bonuses down below. And kind of a neat new aspect. I like the fact that the modular nature of the game allows you to use or not use this, so you can skip it your first couple games, get people used to the basic rules, and then gradually add more and more stuff. And developing up planets makes them much more interesting. And same with the artifacts. Once you get an artifact on a planet, they become more interesting. When you get artifact and developments on a planet, then you start fighting wars over them when they become good. So you get a ton of new cubes here, and these are the ones you're going to put on your player boards to keep track of your mothership's power levels. There's also red ones for your hit points for your mothership and colony station, as well as a set of them to go on the technology trees to go through. You get 4 for each player for that as well. They're not all in here because I have mine mixed in with my other set already, but there's a ton more than what's in that little bag there. Next we have our influence tokens. You get a pile of these for keeping track of influence. That's a new resource in the game that's very entertaining. Then we have new cubes for our gas and mineral resources. Like as I said before, these replace the cards that used to represent resources in the original game. And the fact that there's 2 different ones now. Gas can be used to alter die rolls, where regular resources are basically used to buy things. So you also get 2 new planets. These are the gas planets that you're going to be getting the new resources from. And I like the design on them. I think they'll look awesome painted, but they're plain enough where you can leave them as they are, and you can definitely tell the difference between these and the standard planets. You also get 4 moons, and they come on these little arms, and they're made so that you can put them on the planetary bases like this, and you have a moon orbiting a planet. You can also take them off of these little arms and use them on just a plain base and just have a microplanet or dwarf planet. And there's rules for these in the back of the book. Basically, you're going to roll the die as if it was a moon to see what kind of resource it gives you, as opposed to a planet having a normal resource and development uses. Moons add one extra development to a system. So when they're like by themselves like that, they'd only have one instead of 3. But they're definitely a cool new addition. And again, another one of those cool things that's modular. You can use them if you want, and you don't have to if you don't want to. To go with the moons, we also have the die. This is a new die to roll to see what resources the moons are producing or what bonuses they give you. And I like the fact that the icons are each very unique, very colorful, and bright. And they are, it's hard to see, but they are actual etched into the die and then painted, not just screen printed on, so you don't have to worry about them wiping off on you over time. Definitely cool. And then finally, our last thing in here are the new Guardian cannons. And you get 3 of each of these Guardian cannons for each of the colors. And they're deployed through various tech trees as well as action cards that allow you to deploy them. There is a limited number of them that you can use. You only have 3 available. And based on your tech tree advancements, that number may go up. And there you go. That's a look of everything that comes in the upgrade expansion for the Mothership 2.0. If you've got the original Mothership game, this pack will let you take everything that you have in your game to upgrade it to the current game. So you are going to need to bring a few things over from your original game as well. First and most obvious are going to be your ships. You're going to have to bring all of these over as well as your original planets and your dice. So keep that in mind. You're going to need to bring over your asteroids, whether you have these Kickstarter shiny ones or the basic ones. You're going to have to bring those over from your original game. And you're going to need to bring over your markers for the artifacts. And that one I'm going to get to in a minute because that one kind of bothers me. As well as the victory points. In the new edition of the game, you're supposed to have victory point markers that look like this. These are printed ones because they were from my prototype. And I actually got 2 of the same one instead of the... supposed to be one that's 1 to 10, and then this one's 11 to 20. But the new edition of the game comes with these in the cardboard type material. And every faction has a little marker that you'll put on there, and you move this up as you score points to keep track of your victories as you're playing a victory point game. In the old edition, we didn't have these. In the original edition of the game, there were these cards color-coded for each of the factions, and you had a disc that went on here, and it goes up to 10 on one side, you flip it over, 11 to 20 on the other. So each individual person had their own card, as opposed to having a single track for the entire board. I do like the track idea better, but because they didn't come in the upgrade pack, you have to keep using these old victory point trackers. And because you don't have these colored markers for all your factions to go with them, that's the thing with using one for everybody. The colored markers designated who is who. In this, the colored actual tracks designate who is who. So you either need something to use that matches your color as a tracker, or you're going to have to use an individual one of these for each of your players. So keep that in mind. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, most importantly, you're going to have to bring over your board from the first edition, unless you bought the XL pack and have the new upgraded board. One thing worth noting too is the original board was very shiny, and the 2.0 versions have a like matte linen finish. Much nicer overall. But I do like the colors and design on the original one as well. What I wanted to say about these is that the new ones have completely new artwork, and if you watch my video for the Into the Vortex expansion for the second edition, you're going to see these new tokens, and they have new artwork on the back where these are just kind of black, and the fronts look nicer overall. They kind of remind me of the artifact cards. They're themed the same. And the drawback here is that if you use the upgrade pack like you're supposed to, and you use these original ones from the original game, you have 1 through 12 that look like these, just black and white, where 13 through 20 are going to match the new game with the new artwork. I really think they could have splurged for extra punch boards, at least to get these tokens, just to make that aspect more usable. What we've been doing to compensate for it in our games is that instead of putting a token under every planet, and then when you explore the planet, you flip it over and you read the number, and that's how you know what artifact you get. We can kind of skip that entire thing. We put these tokens aside, and you shuffle up this deck, and when somebody explores a planet, you draw the top card, and you say, okay, I found the abandoned flak cannon, it's number 7. So then you're going to dig through here, you're going to find number 7, and then you're going to tag that planet with that number. That gets around the fact that if you're using all 20 of the tokens, half the planets are going to be marked because you're going to know what 13 through 20 is because they're different tokens. So keep that in mind. That doesn't change any of the rules of the game. Everything's still randomized. It works exactly the same. It just compensates for not having those tokens. And one more little minor thing. If you had the original Kickstarter version, you got one of these, which was a random event die. And because of the way the new game works, this really wasn't involved anymore. And to compensate for it, and allow you to still use it, Peter came up with a great idea for people who had it to buy this pack. And it comes with a card here explaining what all the different symbols on the event die do. They're pretty 50-50, good or bad. And in order to use it, you now have these action cards which go into the regular action deck and allow you the chance to roll the die. So this was something you could buy as an add-on if you were a first edition backer and had the die to allow you to basically make use of it in the second edition. It was an extra thing that you could add on, and nice to see that he was thinking about us guys who were already out there. I should point out that the stuff in front of you here is actually part of the upgrade kit, whereas the box I mentioned was available separately. It does not come as part of the upgrade kit. I just stuck them all in one big video because it made more sense that way. But yeah, the box is a separate thing. You can squeeze all of this stuff into the original core box. I've done it, and it's a very tight fit, but everything will fit in there. The biggest problem is that these boards are thicker than the originals, so the lid of the box does stick up maybe a 1/4 inch or so. So keep that in mind if you're going to go that route. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at the Mothership 2nd Edition Upgrade Pack. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.